Hello, everybody, and welcome to Squad Talk. Squad Talk is our weekly live talk show where you meet some amazing women entrepreneurs. So some of our guests are running multi-million-dollar businesses. Some have built companies that have IPO'd and become publicly traded companies like today's guest. And some are still early in their journey and kicking butt. These women are here to share their stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and answer your questions. So this show is special because when you're watching Squad Talk, you're also part of the action. So every so often, I'm going to ask one of our guests a question, and I want you to answer it too. These questions are called Squad Talk Confessions. So whether you're watching the live show or you're watching the replay, the goal of Squad Talk Confession is to quickly and honestly answer. Don't overthink it. Just speak your truth and post it in the comment box below. And if you have any questions for our guest today, make sure to stick around until the end because that's when she's going to answer some of them. So let's get started. I am just beyond excited to introduce you to today's guest. The theme for today is generosity. And my guest today is an expert on generosity, but not just regular generosity. We're talking about radical generosity. And Vicki Saunders, well, she's a pretty radical woman. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's a published author. She's an award-winning mentor. And she was recently named one of the 100 most influential female leaders alongside people like Melinda Gates, Sheryl Sandberg, and Michelle Obama. So yeah, she is a total boss. If you are on this live cast right now, you're going to want to share this with your friends and your girlfriends who are starting businesses because they're going to want to hear Vicki's story. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Vicki. Welcome, Vicki.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so thrilled to have you here, especially knowing what a busy time this is for you right now. I just want to say thank you so much for being here with us.
It's my pleasure.
I'm going to put you on the spot because one of the things that we like to do here is we like to ask every entrepreneur if they can share with us their 30-second elevator pitch. Because I'm sure you know better than most how important that elevator pitch is to sharing your message. So Vicki, can we have your elevator pitch?
Sure. Hi, I'm Vicki. I'm founder of SheEO, and we are a global initiative to get capital in the hands of amazing female innovators who are building a better world with their business, whatever that looks like. 1,000 women contribute $1,000 each per region. We create $1 million pool of capital, and we loan that out to female entrepreneurs at 0% interest, and they pay it back over 5 years and get access to our networks, our buying power, and our expertise to grow their business. Ding.
So that is pretty darn radical.
Yeah, pretty radical.
I just can't wait to start telling everybody about SheEO, but I really think that before we dive into that, it's important for them to understand your backstory so they can really see, how you came up with this radical concept. So can you talk a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur? Tell us your story. I know that SheEO is not your first venture, so, give us the story.
Sure. Yeah. So, I actually never really thought I'd be an entrepreneur. I, from a young age, was looking at where I could be the most free, and looked around, and a lot of people, back then in the 80s, did something for making money, and then did the stuff they loved on the side. Like, it was a weird time. And ever since I was growing up, I thought I wanted to do good and make money at the same time, and everyone considered that to be ridiculous. So I like to call myself the original millennial. Like, way back then, that's what I wanted. I love millennials. Because I really feel like we're, everything's broken in this world, and we're going to create a whole new model. Like, we just need to start again. So I actually ended up becoming an entrepreneur in Prague. Right after the wall fell down, I happened to be there. Everybody around me was dreaming now that they were free. What were they going to do? And I went, oh my God, I'm free too. What am I going to do over here? Like, the wall has come down. It was a whole new society being built. And so I started a business there, and then I started another business, and then I got all my friends to start businesses. And then I just, I got hooked on this idea of coming up with an idea and then actualizing it in the world. Like, that to me is, I love hanging out with dreamers who are doers as well. They're just like my favorite peeps in the whole wide world. Like, there's this whole thing about feeling like you have enough power, I suppose, in the world to go affect change. I just love people who come from that spirit, and I will give them as much time as they want to sort of help them with that. So after that, I started an English language school, then an import-export company in Europe. And then I created the first incubator in Canada in 1999. and went public on the TSE. So that was way back in the first bubble time. Here we are in the second bubble. And I created a software as a service company in Silicon Valley focused on tech. So everything I've done has really been around impact, tech, social entrepreneurship before it was called social entrepreneurship. I really love, I think that, coming up with new business models to change the world is really where it's all at these days.
And Vicki, this is why I love you and why I'm always just so inspired whenever I get any of your time, because you see the flaws, you see the challenges, and you're looking at, okay, well, where are the opportunities in those? How can we leverage those, and how can we create a new system? And I think that every entrepreneur needs to go into the journey that way, but they're not always taught that. So thank you for sharing that message and for creating a movement that shares that message. So yeah, I want to ask you, you've built so many successful businesses. Can you say one piece of advice that when you were getting started, you wish somebody would have shared with you earlier? I know I have a few things that had somebody just told me earlier could have saved me so many tears, so many wasted hours and energy. So can you share some of those with our guests?
Yeah, well, I think, getting a really good mentor or a group of advisors around you early, I think, is really critical. I find, just personally, I spent a lot of time just with my head down, doing things my way. And I didn't feel like I was surrounded by a lot of people who got who I was and who were supporting me, and my family did. But I didn't have a lot of advisors who really understood. It was just, I think that might be that way with sort of pioneering entrepreneurs who are doing really things that are different. It's hard to find a tribe. But I would do whatever it takes to find your tribe as soon as possible, because it's so tough getting started and not being surrounded by people who've got your back.
We could obviously not agree with you more. I mean, here at Squads, our whole mission is how do we find people, connect them with their ideal peer group? Because sometimes those people aren't your local people. Sometimes you just can't meet the right people locally. And sometimes you also just don't have time to go searching for them. You need somebody to bring you together. And so, we obviously are on the same wavelength when it comes to that. Awesome. So one of the books that for me, so a little backstory to how I met Vicki, I was starting my first failed tech company. And somebody introduced me to Vicki, and they said, you have to meet Vicki. She's starting this incredible movement. And, I got a chance to get on the phone with her. Then we met in Toronto briefly, and she was just this powerhouse of brilliance and soul. And I hadn't met somebody like that before, and I loved it. And she told me about her book, and I went home and I downloaded it on my Kindle. And it was a tough time in our business journey. We were hitting roadblocks when it came to fundraising. I was struggling to balance, bootstrapping the company while also building it out. And reading Vicki's book, Think Like a SheEO, for me, I describe it to getting into a warm bath at the end of the night. Getting to read, to me, just as this incredible gift that gave me the courage, the direction, the inspiration to keep going when things were really, really hard. And, I don't say that lightly. It is one of the books that I recommend to every woman entrepreneur to read. And in the book, Vicki, you reveal 8 principles to help guide a young entrepreneur's journey. And I wanted to know, can you share those principles, and can you tell a story about a lesson that you learned and that inspired one of those principles?
Yeah, well, it starts with everything's broken. What a great time to be alive. And, this is something that took me a long time to feel comfortable saying. A lot of people don't really get that. They're living in the world and they think this is just the way it is. But I think this entire model has kind of played itself out. We have 62 people on the planet that have the same wealth as 3.5 billion people. Right? It's this whole model is about winner takes all. And it's pretty much over. And so we need a whole new approach. And so part of the thing that we all know is that at moments of sort of deep crisis, there's also a lot of opportunity. And so you can look at the world and go, oh my God, everything's broken and we need to redesign everything. Everything's being disruptive. That can look really scary and like a bad thing, and you can sort of spiral downward. But if you're a creator or a maker or an entrepreneur, I feel like this is a place where opportunity just pops. You're like, oh my God, everything's broken. Awesome. Great. I get to fix things, right? I get to come up and find my thing that I want to fix in the world. And so I also, this is also one of the things I talk about a bit in the book is flipping negatives into positives, right? So crisis into opportunity. And it's a muscle that I've built over the years, over and over and over. So, it's like, oh, that would be really hard. Well, what if it wasn't? Or I don't have enough money. Well, what if I did? I don't have enough time. Well, what if you did? Right? Like I'm constantly noticing limiting language in myself and others around me, because I think it holds us back. It keeps us smaller. And part of the, the opportunity in the world is like noticing these things that aren't working and knowing that we can redesign them, because basically we made all this up the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be super clear about it, women were not at the table for the first version. We weren't designing this. This world was not designed by us. Clearly it doesn't work for us, right? Like it's super tough. And so we need to be at the table for 2.0, which is what SheEO is all about. So that's one of our principles. We have a bunch of, like, one of my favorite things is follow the energy. So I tend to notice really quickly if I'm spending time on something and it's not really yielding results or impact, I ditch it and iterate.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it's like, hey, we have this strategy and we just keep following the strategy and it's not working, but hey, that's our strategy. So we just keep following this, like chuck that out and iterate it quickly. So I'm, with SheEO, for example, people say, well, how do you choose what cities you're going to next? And I said, well, we follow the energy. I was like, what does that mean? Well, when someone will not stop emailing me, we go to their city, right? That's how we picked Colorado. They would not stop emailing me. They emailed me like at least once a month for 7 months.
I wondered why Colorado. I love that.
Yeah, and that's what everyone says, why Colorado, right? But it's, again, the normal thing would be, okay, create your old 5-year plan. And like, we're going to go to New York first, and then this and this and this. We had lots of people in New York who were interested, but no one who wanted to execute and run it on the ground. So we didn't go to New York, right? Mm-hmm. We went to places where people were super, super energized by it and wanted it right now. So following the energy is another one. And if you look through the book, there's a bunch of different tools. I've basically aggregated all the wisdom I've learned over the years and done a gigantic brain dump. It probably should be 6 books, but it's a pretty dense single book of like everything I've learned.
But it didn't feel dense. I mean, reading it, it was like pearl of wisdom after pearl of wisdom. Like it just felt like a gift. It's one of those books that when it ends, you're like, no, that's it. Like, it's funny.
People send me pictures of it. Yeah, people send me pictures of it that they post up on Twitter. And it's like highlighted, dog-eared. They're like, could you create a workbook? I've highlighted everything. Yeah.
I think you are creating a workbook though, because you're creating it within the SheEO template. Yeah. And just before we move on, like you touched on one thing that I think is so exciting. So right now we're working on a unique campaign, and it really follows that thought process of like, everything's broken. What an exciting time to innovate. And so for anybody who's building a business today, you might have noticed how much more difficult it is to build awareness because content shock is here and there's just more content being produced than anybody can possibly consume, and it's hard to build an audience. It's not the same as it was a year ago, and it's certainly not the same as it was 5 years ago. And with that in mind, we looked at that and we said, this is hard for us, but it's also hard for our community, and what can we do about it? And we're launching something really innovative and exciting, hopefully at the end of this week, with that in mind. And it was like, we could have looked at this and said, okay, well, this sucks, but like, how do we get around it? But instead we're like, okay, this sucks for us, which means it sucks for lots of other people, which means that there's a solution here that we can all do together. And it just comes down to looking at those challenges and saying, how do I burst through this today? What can I do? And I love that you're creating, an army of smart women who believe that too.
Yeah, it's amazing to be surrounded by that, right? I mean, it's not an easy path to choose, being an entrepreneur or a creator. And so if you do choose that path, it's important to kind of hang with others and just realize, okay, yeah, everyone feels the same. You're not alone. It's a similar experience.
That's exactly it. One of my favorite quotes, they say that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And if you think about that and you audit your circle, you all want to be surrounding yourself with people that make you your very best self. And I think that as entrepreneurs, you need people who are just like irrationally optimistic around you, because you need to be irrationally optimistic because it is hard. And by surrounding yourself with those people and being able to share your stories, you also see that you're not some unique snowflake. You're not the only one who's feeling like you're failing and feeling like everything is going wrong and you just can't get it together. And sometimes just knowing that gives you enough to go, okay, and to figure it out.
Totally agree.
I love it. I love it. So this is our first Squad Talk confession question. So Vicki, besides your own book, what is another business book that you think every woman entrepreneur should read?
One of the good books to pay attention to now, I think, is called Traction. And it's, I don't know if you've read it, but it's a great sort of like guide operationally to gain traction with your business. And it's, taps into a lot of the different tools right now of minimum viable product and focusing on what you are totally amazing at, outsourcing everything else, like absolutely everything else. And really, diving deep on your core competency. I mean, there's 7 billion people on the planet. To differentiate yourself, you need to be in your mastery and your greatness. So I find this book is great. It's called Traction.
I love that. I love that. And ladies, that's a Squad Talk confession question. So post your own below as well. So, all right, let's just talk about SheEO, how amazing it is. If anybody's not familiar with SheEO yet, it is just such an exceptional movement. It's the kind of movement that gets you a cover spot on Inc. magazine. So they said, meet the women that are hacking venture capital. And I think to understand how big of an impact SheEO is making, you also kind of need to understand the problem that SheEO is here to solve. So Vicki, can you talk a little bit about that to the audience?
Sure. So basically 4% of venture capital goes to women. It's been like that for decades, or to be really truthful, millennia, forever. And it isn't changing. And as I look at those numbers, and we have so much data to show, female entrepreneurs are more capital efficient than their male counterparts. If we funded women the same degree as men, we create 6 million jobs in the next 5 years. I mean, it's just off the charts. We have an amazing business case, but it's not changing. And I think when I dug underneath it, and I've been playing with this idea for 20 years, trying to figure out how do you solve it? How do you deal with it? It's really systemic. The only way I think we're going to get money in the hands of female innovators is if women start writing checks. So then it brings up question number 2, which is like, okay, how do you get women to activate their capital on behalf of other women? Super tough to turn women into angel investors. It just doesn't fit our risk profile as much, which I can completely relate to. And I don't think we need to fix women. I think we're just fine the way we are. So part of the thing is, how do you create a price point then that gets women to start experiencing working together on behalf of each other to create the kind of world we want? And that's when this idea sort of came through of 1,000 women at $1,000 each, creating $1 million pool. And what we also do is we leverage, we look at the major challenges female entrepreneurs face. Money's one, but it's not the only thing. When we're getting started, it's hard for us to find networks. It's hard for us to find early customers, and it's hard for us to find mentors and advisors. And so with SheEO, you get all of that. You get a 0% interest loan from us, but now you've got, like in our Canadian pilot, we had 500 women who contributed $1,000, and we picked 5 companies. Those entrepreneurs now have 500 women on their team. Like, it's unbelievable. If you think about that as an entrepreneur, you're in this place of kind of feeling alone and you don't have what you need, to now you have 500 women. Every month they ask for help.
Priceless. I mean, money aside, you could have taken money from them and you still priceless.
Right. Yeah, totally. And so we have, so every month the ventures ask for help from the network, and within 24 hours of our email going out, the ventures get exactly what they asked for.
I love it.
So it's like there's 100-to-1 ratio of activators to ventures. And so people are busy. They're not always paying attention, but someone is, right, out of that group. So that's one thing. And then they get this world-class coaching. So 2 calls a month. And it's literally exactly what they need. It's not like, here's the program you go through for this stage of, whatever investor, like retail, sub 500K in revenue or something. It's not at all. It's very personalized to where you are, where your confidence level is, your boldness, where you're going with your business, what your skill sets are. And it helps you get to whatever the next level is for you based on your own goals of success. So we don't layer on revenue goals for you. It's up to you. What's your goal?
I just think that is so important. I think that there's so much training out there today and programming where it's like this one size fits all solution.
Yeah.
And especially in group coaching, like you're in a position where you could just offer a group program and that would probably be easier for you to facilitate, but ultimately it wouldn't be as valuable for those entrepreneurs because you really need personalized feedback from people who come to know your business. That is priceless. And I love that you're delivering that to those ventures. And that's very much what we deliver at Squads because we see the value in that.
Yeah, it's just huge. So there's the cohort themselves that have become close friends who work together, and they're all in different spaces, so they really help each other. There's the coaching, and then there's the access to the mentors and advisors within the network, the activators, we call them. And it's all very self-serve in our network. So we don't layer on mentors to you. There's curated groups and opportunities for you to meet each other, and whoever you fall in love with and whoever falls in love with you, those are your peeps, right? So we don't say, here are the 6 people on your advisory board at all. It's very bottom up, very organic. And, so we have a venture right now, and one of our activators in our network just totally fell in love with this venture and has made 19 different introductions, like crazy. And she keeps going and closing all this business. And so, as an early, the part of the thing is when you're just getting started, you don't know the people necessarily who are the decision makers in corporate Canada, and how you can get support, or in corporate America, wherever you are in the world. And so to have women that are sort of at the twilight of their career with big networks and a lot of goodwill and relationships, to be able to make those phone calls and say, hey, would you just meet with this person? And then they get excited. We want to help each other, right? Like, women want to help each other. We just haven't created a vehicle for that to happen before. So this concept of like being surrounded by a network of radically generous women, how would that change you? And I feel like this is working on me every single day. I am becoming more generous. Like, when I get emails, I think, what's the radically generous response to this email? Like, of course I'm super busy and stuff, but like, it's hard when you're out there, and I want to encourage people, right? So what's the radically generous response to things? And it's not even just with each other, but it's with ourselves. So I feel like we're all like running so ragged, so exhausted. We have so much on our plates. We put so much stress on ourselves. As women, we're like trying to be perfect all the time. And so if you're radically generous with yourself, would you like stay up that extra 3 hours and blow yourself out? Like, what are the things we do? Yeah, because I think we need to lead our way to a new model. It's not working for us. It's not working for guys either, but it's really not working for us.
Well, I think that I don't see that men, like, not that they don't hold themselves to the same standards. They certainly do. Men work really hard. Like, I think it's more so the self-criticism that women are guilty of, like, if we don't make the shot, if we don't, if something to go the way that we planned, it's something we own, and we wear it, and we feel it for a long time. And I know, after that first failed tech company, I had never felt quite so depressed as I felt at that time, because I felt like I had let all of these people down. And, I would talk to them, they'd say, it's okay, this is the way things work. You pivot, you figure things out, not everything's going to work out. And they didn't lose confidence in me, but for a period of time, I lost confidence in myself.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that at that time I wasn't surrounded by a group of radically generous women. I was at an accelerator program in a new place where I didn't have a big network yet. And it was just a very lonely time. And I think that we women need to be easier on ourselves. And part of doing that is being reminded to do that.
Right. And I think also, like, we pick at women like crazy. We don't do the same thing to men. Like, we're so hard on each other. And so I think, this is why we call it radical generosity, because I think we can become so much more than we think we can when we're surrounded by people that are nurturing and emboldening us and encouraging us. I also feel like this idea, it's kind of interesting. I grew up in a family full of boys. I grew up surrounded by boys. And I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. And so, of course, what do I get? I get a whole sisterhood as a business idea, right? So like, now I'm totally healing my feminine side. And I feel like it's actually pretty emotional for me. I was at an event last night, and I was talking to a couple of our activators, and I'm like, you're the sisters like that I never had. I feel like I'm sort of healing that in myself. And I now really want to be surrounded by these incredible women. Like, I never thought I wanted to do anything gender specific, but I'm really, I'm enjoying this a lot. Like, I'm enjoying having a bit more humanity. Business is super unforgiving. And to be a little bit more forgiving with each other is kind of it's a good step.
It's such a good step. I mean, there's nothing that's, it's so discouraging in some of my conversations with, men coming from the corporate world, where you tell them, oh, I'm doing this network for women. And they would say, but women don't like working together. Women aren't supportive of each other. And I would say, only in the constructs of this world where you've created that there's only one seat at the table and they all know it. And so they're, you have to claw at each other to try to score that one seat. In our world, that's not the way it is. there are lots of seats, there's lots of rooms for people at the top, and we're actually lifting each other up there as opposed to pushing each other down.
Totally.
And it's just a different way of thinking about business that I think is the future, but it's going to take time to let everybody know that.
Definitely.
So, Vicki, tell us, what is one myth that women entrepreneurs need to stop telling themselves?
That it's actually really hard to get capital.
Thank you, because that's one I've been telling myself.
There you go. Well, so I think there's a lot of narratives out there that like, oh, it's really hard to get money from banks. It's hard to get money from different places. I think part of the thing that we need to shift around is going, okay, what kind of capital do you want? What kind of investor are you looking for? And just be clear on the values you're looking for and set that tone. So come from a place of abundance and go, this is the kind of person I'm looking for. Instead, I think what we try and do is we go like, who funds this kind of thing? And then we go into this little pool and then we get all like turned upside down. I think we need to really go, there's a lot of money out there. I just need to get really, really clear on who's my tribe, who's going to be most excited about this, who I personally want to work with. Because when you're having a conversation with somebody who aligns with your values, it's so much easier.
Right. Absolutely.
But when you walk in the door and you're having a conversation with someone who doesn't get you and isn't your tribe, it's hell. Like it literally is hell. And you start to question everything about yourself. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think that is definitely one thing that we need to start changing.
I love that. Okay. So this is our last Squad Talk confession question, and then I'd like Vicki to talk to us about how you can become a SheEO activator. So for any women watching, we want to chat about that. But the last Squad Talk confession question is, who is on your squad? And who do you lean on for help in your business? So it sounds like you've got a very large squad these days. But tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a really huge squad. I mean, I've built a network. I have like 6,500 people in my LinkedIn network. I mean, it's kind of insane. So I will not spend 10 minutes doing anything that I know someone else can do in 5. Right? I'm like absolutely addicted to efficiency. So I've built my network that way, right? So I know who to reach out to help with the things that I'm not that excited about or not passionate about, because it just makes it easier. And so I have a huge thing. I have a person I reach out to help me pull out of my brain the words that I need. Like I feel things before I have the words for it. Mm-hmm. And so I have this one person that I call, and they're literally like channel stuff out for me somehow. I don't know how they do it, but they help me like uncover my wisdom. I have other people who just make the most beautiful graphics in the whole wide world, and I go to them. I have people that I talk to for strategy. I call my mom all the time. Thank God for my mom. Because she just gives me a kick in the ass whenever I'm feeling down, which I adore. It's really amazing. I have an unbelievable husband. He's like a Buddha. He's always just super chill down. Yeah, like I come home every day and he's like, how are you? And I said, I'm great. And he said, do you want me to tell you how you're really feeling? So he like tunes in on me. It's like, you're exhausted. You need to go to bed. So I mean, for all different aspects of my life, I have people that I talk to. And so I'm super clear on who I am and where I get stuck. And so I just make sure that I think part of the battle here is really just like understanding what you're great at and what you're not, what gets you stuck, and then having those friends around you that unlock you.
I love that. That's one of the things that we try to do when we match people with their squads within squads. We look for people that are at the same level in terms of their business, but bring different skills to people, because you don't need to know it all. And the other thing is objectivity is priceless. When you get stuck in your own head and you're like so close to that aha moment, but there's just something blocking you. Sometimes what you need is just that objective person who knows you, knows your business, and can look and say, well, have you thought of it this way? And suddenly that just unleashes that you were yourself stuck. And I love that you say, find your zone of genius and bring in people to do everything else, because that's such good advice. Yeah,
and I think part of the thing we have to keep doing is like debriefing and thinking like what's working, what's not. I do that every single day. Like this isn't like a once a quarter thing. Like every day I'm like, okay, so what am I working on that's just sucking the life out of me, and how do I change that, and how do I reach out to others? And like I'm very impatient about stuckness. And I'm deeply, like, I'm so, I don't know, like I'm addicted to having a big impact. Right. So if I'm putting time towards something that's not having an impact, I get frustrated and I want to like figure out how to change it. So.
I love that. I love it. Okay. So we're going to open the floor up to some Q&A in a minute here, but Vicki, can you just tell us, how much longer do people have to become an activator? How do they go about becoming an activator? And, why become an activator? Why is it so important?
Sure. So an activator is a woman who contributes $1,100 on behalf of other female entrepreneurs. And so you can go to our website, SheEO.world, SheEO.world, and you can contribute to whatever region that you want to be in. If you're in Canada, if you're in the US, and that money is then loaned out to female entrepreneurs. I think one of the reasons to be an activator in our network, there's quite a few, but like one of them is this is your network. Right? It's not just a network that's there to help the ventures. These are your peeps. And what I was surprised by, what I was surprised by in the first, in the pilot that we did is I really thought about this from the entrepreneur's perspective, like designing a perfect program and support network for female entrepreneurs. But the women who contributed capital all wanted to help each other. So they came in to be radically generous to the entrepreneurs. And then they're like, oh, she's super cool. I want to help her. And what's your business? Or what are you doing with your... And so we all started becoming each other's customers and advisors and supporters. And so I think this is the network I've been like waiting for my whole life. It's just like being surrounded by radically generous
women. This sounds like a dream network. It's like Beyonce
crazy. Yeah. So we say that so you can apply as a venture if you have at least $50,000 in revenue. You're majority woman-owned and woman-led. But you can also be a venture and an activator. So you can hedge your bets. If you don't get selected as one of those companies, if you pay $1,100, you're then in the network and you have access to all these people. And so it's not just the women in your country or in your region, but you get access to all the other regions as well. So this year it'll be LA, San Francisco, Colorado, and Canada that'll be in your network. And next year we're rolling out to different countries. And we have 110 regions in the pipeline. So it's going to be a growing network over time. So those are some of the reasons. We have 2 big events during the year, a gala and a conference where you get together with everybody and you get to ask for help yourself. Like, what is it that you most need? And then find the people in the network that can help you. So those are the main things. I think the other piece is like, you kind of get a behind the scenes look at, who are the entrepreneurs up and coming across the country? What are their cool business ideas? How are they executing on those ideas? As you watch these companies grow, you see what works, what doesn't. So if you're a wantrepreneur, it's kind of cool. It's like behind the scenes. If you're just curious about how all this works and potentially investing, that's interesting. 2 of our 5 companies from the first round already need follow-on funding because they're growing so fast. So we're going to give first right of refusal to women in the network to then invest collaboratively with them. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons. And we did a sentiment analysis on why people are in, which is really cool. It's this new piece of software out of Toronto. And so we loaded in all the I'm in statements. So when you contribute, you say why you're in and, whatever the paragraph is. And so we threw these all into the software. And the main reason why people are in was for joy. 13 shades of joy. The next one was trust. And the next one was love. So joy, trust, and love were the 3 top reasons why people came into the network. So it's kind of cool.
I absolutely love that. And I mean, it sounds like, obviously you have grown very, very quickly as it is, but it sounds like it's going to explode even more in the coming year. So if somebody wants to get in, when it's still small, it's still not a huge network yet, it seems like it would be a really good time because you're going to get those more personal connections because of the smallness of the network now. So it sounds like now is the time, really.
It's a good time. So November 30th is our deadline for 2016. It's 8 more days. We're going to leave the payment gateway open so it can sort of trickle in. We loan out the money in March in Canada and the US, and then we'll be rolling out next year's in the spring. So you'll have another chance if you're not ready yet to come back in.
Fantastic. All right. So Vicki, I have, there may be some people that have some questions. There's a little bit of a lag on our system. So I'm going to ask people to share their questions in the comments. And while they do that, we have this little fun exercise.
All right.
That is kind of like Family Feud style. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do a 35-second speed round where I'm going to ask you 5 questions. and you're going to answer them in under 30 seconds. So it really gets us an inside view of like, how does Vicki think? So let's see here. All right, I'm going to start the timer, and here we go. So what is your guilty pleasure food?
Oh my God, guilty pleasure food. Mac and cheese.
Love it. What is one skill every entrepreneur should master?
Networking.
What is your favorite app on your phone right now?
Oh, it was Sunrise. What's my favorite one right now? Jeez, that's brutal. Airbnb.
For reading, hard copy or Kindle?
Kindle.
And which one person, living or dead, do you most want to have dinner with?
Hillary Clinton.
Love it. All right, that was it. You got them in under 35 seconds. Very well done. All right, let's see if we have any questions here. There is a bit of a lag, so sometimes it takes a few minutes for the questions to come rolling in. None there yet. What's nice about the software that we use is that they can post questions after, and Vicki, I can tag you in them so you can come back and type answers
Awesome.
if there are questions that are posted. I think that it's still catching up with us. Okay, so Vicki, as I said, she is very busy right now. They're getting in the process of like their big launch for SheEO. So I don't want to take up too much more of her time. I want to thank her so much for being here. I want to encourage everybody to go out and buy her book. It is life-changing. And B, check out SheEO, and whether you want to join, as a venture and potentially get funded by a radically generous group of women, or join yourself as an activator, or as Vicki suggested, as both, hedge your bets, then now is the time. And Vicki, just thank you so, so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Awesome. So you guys, next week, we have another guest, and I'm excited to tell you about them, but you'll see that in an email. If you're not already on our email list, go to Squads.vip/list so you're in the know. Thank you, Vicki. Have a wonderful day.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.